Alright, so I've had several requests for this video, mainly coming from Mr. Chris Evans, one of my coworkers, on how to do a 5.1 and 7.1 surround sound system. I'm just going to do kind of a quick video, just to kind of show you how mine is set up. The optimal setup for the type of room and the space that I have in this room. So my actual receiver is a Sony 1000-watt Bravia sound system. So it's got two fronts, a center subwoofer, and two rears. So it's just a 5.1. Now, when you do a surround sound system, you got to take into consideration a lot of different things. How is your room set up? What is that room constructed of? The best thing to do is to have a room that you can convert into what's called a media room, which is kind of something similar to what I've got back here. Other than the media room, should actually have, like soundproof board and stuff like that on the walls, but I really don't have the money or financial means to be able to do that because that's quite expensive. Anyway, as you can see here, I'm also a Coke collector. I collect a lot of Coke stuff. So, to get the optimal sound from my 5.1 surround sound system in this room, and be advised, this room is a 12-foot wide by 16-foot deep room. So your room that you're setting up is going to be a little bit different, and the optimal setup is different for every room. So we got this 1000-watt surround sound system. I got a 55-inch, actually a cheap TCL 4K HDR TV. Everything that goes through the TV goes through the sound system through optical. You never want to use HDMI or any other kind of audio interface except for optical. Optical is going to give you the best performance, and it's going to give you the better stability. Now, as far as speaker placement, your subwoofer, it needs to be somewhere off-centered, either to the right or to the left. It doesn't matter which one. Myself, I've got mine over here to the left, and you really can't see it right now, but mine's over here to the left. Now, for your center, a lot of places tend to say that you want to have your center down low, down below your ear level. If you're sitting down in your chair, when I say ear level, that means when you're sitting down in your chair watching a movie or something like that, ear level is where you would be at when you're sitting in that chair. I did some tests using that. I did some tests using directly at ear level, and I did some tests having the center speaker above ear level. And I will tell you one thing, that the sound quality is a lot better if you have your center speaker above ear level but pointing downward. So up here, I've actually got my center speaker right up there, being even above the TV. So when I'm sitting down in the recliner, this right here would be ear level. I've got it way up there. The sound to me is a lot better with it up there than what it is at any other place. Now, your front surround sound speakers, they come in normally three different deals. A 25 width, a 35 width, and a 45 width. The one that I've got is a 35 width. the greater the width, the more that the distance travels. So my front right speaker I've got right over here in this corner, and it's basically pointing directly at the chair that I normally sit at. Alright, go over to this side. Now I've got another speaker back behind this light over here, and it's the same way. It's basically pointing directly at the chair that I'm normally sitting at. As far as height-wise goes, those are actually slightly above your ear level. And if you remember, I said ear level is the level that your ears are at when you're actually sitting in your chair. All three of those speakers so far, the right, left surround sound, and the center surround sound, are all pointing downward. Even though I've got it set above my ear level, I've got it pointing downward. That gives it a little bit more of a coverage range. Because one thing about sound is if you take a sound, or if you take two speakers and you point it toward each other, kind of in a diagonal ways, that sound crosses each other. And when that sound crosses each other, the sound conflicts and it brings outwards. That gives you more of a unified type sound. You're still going to hear the difference between the right and the left, for sure. But when you have those sound levels crossing each other, then you're not only going to hear that right and that left, but you're also going to hear all of the other differentials and everything else in reference to how that movie was played. That's the exact same way a movie theater is set up. If you wait until the lights come back on, you see that the front speakers, they're not pointed directly at the audience. They're pointed in a diagonal fashion. That way those sound waves cross each other and they create a little bit of different effect. A lot more of a theater effect. Now, moving around, if you have a 7.1 surround sound system, which means that you've got two side speakers. Those two side speakers would ultimately go, in my case, in this specific room, one speaker would basically go between that calendar and this calendar. Alright? So now let me go back out and you can see how that kind of lines up with my recliner chairs. But it lines up with the recliner chairs, but it's slightly above. And so you're going to want to have those speakers also, same as the front, pointing downward just a little bit. Now we'll move over to this other side over here. In my case, if I were to have a 7.1 surround sound system, then the other speaker would basically be mounted right up here. Well, that's a door right there, and I really can't do that. And so a 7.1 surround system would not work for this room. That's another thing that you've got to consider. What type of surround system is going to work for the room that you're currently wanting that surround system in? As we move to the back, you see I've got that rear speaker right there that's pointing just straight back out where I'm sitting. You've got this speaker right here that's also pointing straight back out to where I'm sitting. Your rear speakers normally have a greater range They're normally roughly around 55, 65 degree angle. And so to get the best sound quality, you want to have your rear speakers not cornered, but pointing directly toward you. And just like all of the other speakers, if you do one speaker one way, you've got to do all of your speakers that way. Otherwise, you're going to have a fluctuation in sound. The sound is not going to be the same. In this case, your rear speakers are meant to project outwards, basically straight outwards. And so you want those to be pretty well centered directly behind the chair that you're at. And as in the front speakers and everything else, they're above ear level, but I've got them pointing just a slight hair downward. So now, when I'm sitting in this chair right here or in that chair right there, I get the exact same kind of sound due to the fact of the angles of these speakers and they're crossing each other. Another thing to consider when you're doing all of that stuff is, what do you have in the room? Sound bounces off of objects. When it bounces off of objects, it reflects that sound back to its originating point. So this room here is pretty full with different things that's on the walls and everything else. If you had a completely empty room, your sound would be a lot different. Your sound would be as if you were in like Carnegie Hall or someplace, that's a long, very long distance between you and the sound actually reaching you. It kind of sounds like you're in a hall almost. But when you add different objects to the walls, to the room that you're in, yes, it does create more bounce back, but it creates more bounce back in effect that's not going to particularly hurt the sound quality itself, as it would be if it was a completely empty room. So this room here on this side of the wall, this part right up here is full of a lot of tin. Tin is a good conductor of sound. It'll kind of rattle, especially, if you've got your bass turned up and that kind of thing. It'll rattle a pretty good bit. But then on this side of the room, it's a lot of ceramic. It's a lot of glass. Up here at the front, like on that shelf right there, there's a lot of glass. Glass acts kind of like a reflectivity. So you want to have something that's conducive and something that's reflective, both at the same time. That way they will kind of cancel themselves out when the sound starts bouncing around in the room and everything else. It'll kind of balance itself out, and it'll make for a very much more pleasing, much more theater feeling sound. That's kind of my introduction on 5.1-7.1 surround sound systems. When we go into the advanced side of it, that's when we start working on levels of each one of the speakers. But that's going to be in a different video. Hopefully this video kind of helps you out a little bit on the way I've got my surround sound set up. Everybody's surround sound taste is a little bit different, so you just need to find your own little niche, your own little cliche or something like that, I guess you may say. But this will be all for now. Thank you.